All right. If you've made it this far, congratulate yourself. You've made it through the Science of Getting Rich. This is going to be a pretty quick one. And today we're just going to go through chapter 16 and the summary. And if you're reading that, I think it's like 4 or 5 pages. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to the end of chapter 16 because I thought this was important to get right at the start. Pat, it says here, study this book, make it your constant companion until you have mastered all the ideas contained within it. For someone like me that's maybe followed this program and is reading it and listened to this stuff, hopefully, how often would you recommend now that we would revisit it and go deep into it, or just look at it superficially?
I've done it a couple of different ways. In the beginning, because I've read it so many times, in the beginning, what I did was I would just read a chapter daily and just kind of go back to it. But then it also can take on a little bit of a monotonous tone if you're just like kind of punching the clock and not paying attention. It's funny, the book will call you back at certain times, but anytime that I'm about to start a new project, I always dive back into this. But in the beginning, I would say, dude, read it like every month would be a good idea, because to read it cover to cover takes like 2 hours probably. Okay. And so we've gone through this chapter by chapter. We've done like 3 chapters at a time. It might not be a bad idea to go back now that you've had it all, look at your notes, reread it in its entirety. Okay. And that will not take that long, probably 2 hours, or read it over a couple of days, but more than 3 chapters a day. Yeah, this is the first time that I've ever broken it down like this kind of study. Other than just on my own, I would read a chapter a day for a while. But anyway, best answer is I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. Dive back into it and then dive back into it again. Just keep reading.
All right, perfect. So if you're listening to this, keep diving in back into it, whichever way you see fit. And hopefully you'll tune back in and listen to these as you go along. My plan is now then to read the whole book, and after each 3 chapters, re-listen to our episode. I thought it would be good to share, like whenever I'm reading these books, I have a pile of books here. This is all the books that I've read this quarantine, which I'm pretty proud of.
Oh man.
So that's everything I read during this quarantine nonsense. And with this, whenever I'm reading, I make a lot of notes, and then I keep it on an Evernote, and I have Evernote files of all the books that I read. And every time I'm doing it, I want to get like a couple of useful golden nuggets that I apply into my life. Because if you're going to read the book or consume that and then you don't get anything to apply, there's no point. Oftentimes you'll read a book and someone will be like, oh, you read that book, did you enjoy it? Yes. Oh, tell me about it. What's it about? And they don't know what it's about.
Right.
So I like to get clear on what did I learn, what were the 3 or 4 main things that I can take away and apply. And I thought I'd share a little bit about that. So the book made me think about my values when it comes to money, and why is it that I want to be rich, and why is this useful for me? One was freedom. Your money's just your freedom. Especially got thinking about that now. Like there's a lot of businesses going out. There's contracts changing. I have so many friends that aren't chiropractors, and they're in negotiations about contracts, and am I going to be able to get paid this month, blah blah blah. If you've got this stuff down, money's kind of you're okay. You might not always have a life of no stress, but at least you've got a bit more freedom to play with it if you've got savings away. The other one was just respect for my time. Your money, whenever you have money, it's almost like you don't have to waste as much of your time. Time's the most valuable commodity that we have. If I have money, then I can use my time more efficiently. And then I got thinking about stuff that I like to buy, and I realized like I don't think I have expensive taste. Like I don't buy like fancy clothes or anything like this. But what I do like to spend money on is I really like convenience and efficiency. So for example, like if I'm buying a blender, I don't want just any blender that's going to take me ages to clean and ages to put back together. Like I like the NutriBullet. The NutriBullet's powerful. It's the best one that you can get, and it's so easy to clean. And I don't mind spending that extra ticket to get that. I was laughing the other day because I was hoovering the apartment, and we have like a little shitty like €30 hoover, and it takes ages to clean the thing, and you have to take it apart, and it puts dust everywhere. It's just a mess. I hate the thing. And I was like, I
Yeah.
wonder how much it is for a good Hoover. And I started looking at Hoovers. And if you go way up in price, like they get so efficient. Like the one I looked up, my dream Hoover, this shows that I'm getting older. This shows that I'm like getting closer to being 30 as I get excited. I get more excited about a Hoover than I would have like a convertible Audi or something like this. The
Right.
Dyson Cyclone V10, that's the Hoover that I want. It's
Is that
efficient.
the one?
It's more powerful than the one that we have in the house, and it's easier to clean. It's got a point and shoot mechanism, so you don't have to sit and clean the filters and all this like the one that we have. You just point it, empty it into the trash, and it's done. And I'd rather have something like that rather than just buy a load of crap that I don't need. That's something that I'll buy once and it's useful.
Totally.
So the book taught me like getting clear on my values with money. Why is it that I want to have money in my life? Another game changer for me has been the practicing of gratitude. So now I'm practicing gratitude every day. After I'll do my morning routine and I'll just sit for a couple of minutes and think of stuff that I'm grateful about. And I try and change it every day. And I try and make it something that's big and other stuff that's small that people don't usually appreciate, which I've never done before. I've been involved in personal development for so long. Like I've heard this enough, but just the book reframed it in such a way that I'm like, okay, now I can see the value in that and I'm going to spend time doing it.
Right.
The other day, I got triggered over something. My flatmate annoyed me and I was pissed off about something. And I was like, okay, let me try and slip back into gratitude. And the conclusion I came to with that was like, me and Louise have lived together for a while and we've been friends for 4 years during college. I'm 1 year away from graduating. So that this time next year, you're probably going to be taken for granted all the time, even though he's a pain in the ass. I do appreciate having him around. And whenever you slip into that state of gratitude, it's like what you said, it's hard to get triggered over everything. Other big components. Well, I'll let you talk for a little bit. What did you get out of it this time, Pat?
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is this book has never actually been about money. It's been about being a conscious creator, because I do fundamentally believe that, they talk a lot about, made in the image of God. In the image of God, I don't think that means he's got this big fluffy white beard sitting on a pillow and we've got arms and legs. I think it's that we're creative sinners, that we have the capacity to create, and we're doing it consciously or unconsciously. And I think a lot of people are not aware of how they're just run by programs and run by subconscious beliefs and thoughts and things like that. And for me, the biggest thing about this is, okay, how can I become as conscious and aware of the things that I need to do to create the life that I want to create? And for me, the money, in terms of, it's not about accumulating as much money as I can possibly accumulate. It's about, what do I want in life? And I want a nice, comfortable house. Yeah, I'd like a nice car, but it's not the things, it's the freedom to do what I want. And obviously the time, that is huge for me. I want efficiency, and I want to be like, hey, I want to go here, or I want to do this, I want to learn this, and I don't want to think about, do we have enough or do we not? You know what I mean? It's just, it goes back to freedom, and freedom for me is about choosing and being conscious, consciously creating and choosing the life that I want to live. So that for me is all of it. And in order to do that, one, you got to be really, really clear on what you want. And, I posted a couple of videos in the group and some things. One is definitely watch that DeMartini video. Figure out, what do you really care about? Because you can have this story in your head that you think you care about this one thing, but your life will display what's actually important to you. And when you're clear on that, then you're able to set your life up in a way where you get more of that. And as you follow your values and you follow your joy, follow your bliss, like according to Joseph Campbell, the more you do that for the longer period of time, then what happens is you become a freaking expert in that. And then you start to have a skill set that generates income, but it also generates the ability for you to create your life in the way that you want to do it. But if you're just doing it like, you get some job or whatever, and I'm just going to do this, and it's a good paying job because I'll make money, and then it's actually nothing to do with what you care about or how you want to live your life. And then, like, great, you've got money, whatever that is, but you don't have freedom and you don't have choice. So absolutely thinking in a certain way. And I think a big part of thinking in a certain way is know who you are, know what you want. Number two, getting really clear on that. And exercising the mental willpower to not get pulled into doubt and uncertainty and all the reasons why shit's not going to work out. Because whatever question you ask, your brain will figure it out. So if you ask like, God, you know, how are we going to get over all this? Well, that's not a bad question. But if you're focusing on what you don't want all the time, you know, then you're going to pull more of that into your life. And so becoming conscientious and aware and building the willpower to go, no, I'm not going to put my mind on that. I'm going to put my mind here. And one of the things that sticks out for me the most in this entire book is thinking in a certain way and holding a fixed image with faith and certainty and purpose. It's not willy-nilly like, I'm just going to sit here and $1 million is going to fall in my lap. It's the hardest work in the world. And people think, oh, you can't just keep your mind on something and it happens. No, you keep your mind on it to the point, if you really, really want it, as long as you keep your mind on that fixed vision, you're going to be taking the actions and moving towards that. And the source, the supreme power, will help move it towards you as well. Not without you acting. You definitely have to act. You got to do the things. But it's about keeping the most important thing. So that for me is all of it. Gratitude, obviously, huge. That's how you stay in contact with it. And just think like, you're not here to be punished by some God that, you know, thinks you're bad. The universal impulse is for increase in life for all. It wants you to have what you want if it's in the creative and not competitive plane. You're not out there taking it from anybody else. You're going to give more life for all. And if it's the thing that makes you happy and it's providing a service to somebody, it's like, why wouldn't the universe want abundance? Why wouldn't it move towards evolution, towards that? It was a complete change of thinking for me, coming from a, you know, original sin, you're bad, you don't deserve this, et cetera, and realize like, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why would God want that? You know? So that was kind of the big overall picture of what I got out of it. And I mean, I've seen it work. I've seen it work in my life a lot. And we think like, you know, a lot of people think when it's real simple, you're going to sit on the couch and wish for $1 million. No, but over 20 years, it's freaking amazing what happens and what comes into your life when you're thinking about this. And like, I just started this probably 20 years ago. I can't wait to see what's going to come after this, but because it starts happening like this.
Yeah.
So
you've said before in other episodes that you got into like personal development at 18, 19, which is good. But at what point in your journey were you reading this book? Were you graduated at the time or?
I don't actually, yeah, I think it was about 17 years ago. I think I ran into this right before I moved to Ireland. Yeah, I got it when I graduated. I was in North Carolina, and I think I started reading it, and that's when I went to Argentina and then Ireland. And from that point, it was basically right after graduation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And something I was thinking about reading it when you said there that the universe is abundant. Do you think even though the universe is abundant, that evolution as well as social conditioning has taught us to think more in a scarcity mindset? Because being fearful back when we were in the caves was something that it's probably good that they had that, because that's the reason that you and I are here. It's the reason that we're alive is because our ancestors were smart enough to think about these things. But
yeah, not
need
pet
to be in that
dinosaurs.
mindset now.
I think it's a very, very necessary thing. Like that whole fight, flight, fear response is great. And I think we're hopefully starting to evolve out of that somewhat. You know, I mean, it's life preserving, but I think we're coming out of that animal nature and into the more divine self. And I mean, that depends. I think we're in a really interesting crisis situation, but I have this feeling that it's going to jump to a higher level. I really do. I think, you know, crisis is opportunity. And I see it all, the universe as awakening, and awakening will create different interactions of things, and it will create different crises and different problems that will be overcome. And it's just nonstop.
Yeah. I've written that down there. Crisis is opportunity, because it ties into what my next point. the bit in the book, I didn't agree with this, but it said, give no anxious thought to possible disasters, obstacles, panics, or unfavorable combinations of circumstances. And I thought, yes, well, you don't want to just live in a perpetual state of fear, but I think it's too extreme just to be like, oh, we're not going to give any thought to a pandemic or something like this happening. And I said, I'm not sure if I agree with that, because if we only focus on the positives, then we're not preparing for maybe when things aren't so good. So when we do have a recession or the next global shutdown, and also, so this is how we're wired, and there's two cognitive biases that I recommend anyone that's listening to this look up, and people in economics will use this as well. So one is fear of loss aversion, and you're gonna hear a lot about fear of loss aversion after this after this thing blows over because of the stock market. So fear of loss aversion basically works like this: if we each have $1 million in the bank, and there's an opportunity where your million could double, it could go to 2 million, or you could lose everything and it goes to zero. Well, even though it's an equal amount, it's $1 million. Those aren't the same. It's not the same risk. So whenever we were back in the caves, if you had an opportunity, if we have enough food for the tribe, and there's an opportunity to go on this hunt, which is very dangerous, but is going to get, if we have enough food, it's almost not worth going on the hunt and having double the amount. And that's the same thing with what's happening with people's money at the moment. So fear of loss aversion. And then the other one was subjective marginal utility. So go on Google. You don't have to know too much about it, but just go and Google what subjective marginal utility is. And it basically means that it's not enough to just compare apples and pears. And this is where, whenever we were talking about the values, so like, do you want to have, well, like you guys talk about, like the Zen practice, or are you only going to focus on money? Well, that's different for whoever's looking at it. So a young chiropractor that's just graduated and has 250 grand of debt, he's probably going to have a much bigger desire and more of a fire under him to go and make a lot of money in a very short period of time. Whereas a guy who's been practicing for 50 years and he's got properties all over the place and he's got a really happy, wonderful family, he's going to value freedom more over money. So fear of loss aversion and subjective marginal utility. And that's why I didn't agree with that part of the book, because it's like, give no thought to any potential disasters or anything negative. Just don't give any thought into it. But the people that are prepared for this kind of thing that's happening right now, they're the ones that are going to come out of it looking a bit more fresh. Whereas people that haven't looked after their finances and they don't have that reserve ready to help themselves, they're the ones that are going to kind of get into trouble. So that was the one bit that I was like, I'm not quite sure about that just yet.
Yeah, that's a really, really valid point, really, really good to focus on. And I think his purpose in this, I mean, I may be mistaken, but I think it was like, don't put your focus on these things that could possibly happen, because the solution to the problem will arise as the obstacles come up. If you focus on how to be a creator, that when things like that happen, you're going to be able to get out of it. That's like they talk about people when they make a lot of money. So that first million's really hard, but to get to 10 million after a million is a lot easier. Yeah, because you're learning the skill set of doing it. I don't have 10 million, so I don't know, but that's I think it's like, it's not, don't live, throw caution to the wind and don't give a shit. I think it's about just focus on, how do you build wealth? How do you do these things? How do you draw your life towards you? And that, because you can't act on a future thing that hasn't happened yet. So you can act on it and you'll have the solution when you get to that point. But it is a very valid point, especially in the volatile world that we live in now. I think it's very, very good to trust in God, but tie up your camel.
What you said there about like trust that you're going to pick up the answers as you go along. I don't know why, but what popped into my head when you said that was learning a language. So it's very easy when you're learning a language to get the paralysis by analysis and be like, well, I can't go to the post office and ask for this until I know the perfect script and I know how to speak this language. Whereas if you just go to the post office and just try your best, chances are you'll come out with what you wanted and you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't think I'd be able to do that. And you impress yourself.
Yeah. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. I don't know why that popped into my head there randomly. Yeah, when we're talking about being fearful, that's kind of getting into the competitive frame, and with the competitive mind, I think as well, not necessarily being in competition with one another, but just when you're being triggered, like the story I was sharing about whenever I was triggered the other day, and you can just slip back into gratitude. So whenever you're just getting mad at the world around you, slip more into feelings of gratitude. And look, maybe 5 of my patients on my student shift in the intern clinic cancelled today, and that kind of pisses me off. But the good thing about that is I'm grateful because the 3 patients that did come get my full focus on attention. Well, that's a bad example because they should get the full focus on attention anyway, but you know what I mean. And
I know what you mean.
and there's plenty of other patients out there that are going to listen to my message and do want to come in.
Completely. And just it's moving from the competitive zero-sum game, fear, doubt, uncertainty, into the kind of thinking in a certain way from the creative plane and for advancing life for all. You know, it's just the quicker you can get into that. It's not like stuff doesn't show up in your life and stuff doesn't suck sometimes, but it's about building resourcefulness, I think. And when you're connected to source, there's no limit on resources. But when we're in that, you know, not abundant state, and like, fuck that and fuck this and everything, then you're not connected to your resourcefulness. So yeah, even like when things suck and like you're getting beat up by the world, okay, what can I be grateful for? You're getting tougher. You're building resilience. You're building a skill set. And the quicker you can drop into that gratitude, that's what's going to get you into that resourceful state. That's going to get you on and through this obstacle to where you're going.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the biggest things, man. It's so important to remember it, because I don't know a single human being that doesn't get triggered, and that's normal. But what's great is how quick can you come back? It's just like sympathetic response. You're gonna have fight or flight, you know, like, but how quick can you get back into ease? Like, that's resiliency, that's adaptability, and that's what makes you a more powerful creator. I mean, that's the creative urge of biology as well. Like, how can you get out of that competitive back into creative, threat into ease? You know, that.
And now that you've been aware about that for a long time, whenever you do get triggered, does it take you long to, like, when was the last time you were really triggered about something, and were you able to calm down? Because I can think of the exact last time that I was triggered, and it was about an hour and a half later that I was like, oh shit, I should have fallen back into gratitude. I did get really triggered there. So at the time I wasn't even aware of it. You don't even know when you're being triggered. You think you're right, you know?
Well, I've gotten to the point now where I pretty much know I'm triggered right away, but I might indulge myself in it and stay in the, like, fuck it, I don't want to be grateful right now, or I don't want to come out of this. I'm gonna pout. And I know that I'm being triggered, and I see it, and I'm going, okay. So the first thing I always try and do is go, okay, I'm feeling charged and I'm feeling triggered and I feel this going on right now. All right, where do I do this? Whatever I'm, you know, thinking somebody else does, like the universe is a mirror. You spot it, you got it. I'm like, okay, where am I doing that in my life? I need to look at that. And usually the quicker I can get to, oh, that's exactly where you do that, then the quicker it'll go away. Because it's like what we don't own, we project out there. And so the things that we're trying to learn in our lives show up in our lives a lot. And it's like, that asshole or this thing and da-da-da. And I mean, I'm not great at it. You know, I still really get triggered and things like that, but I catch it really, really quickly. And so it's like, how quick can I stop doing that? And then the ones that continually show up and over and over and over again, that's like you're obsessive compulsive about, or it's like pathological, that takes a little deeper work. That's the hard work. There are processes like the DeMartini method is great for that. And then some of it will be your karma that'll probably last this entire lifetime, you know? But my point in saying all that is, I think the quicker you can just become aware that I'm triggered right now, then you have more choice and ability to decide, okay, do I want to continue down this road, or do I want to switch my state? And sometimes I will be very self-indulgent and continue down that road and be a little bitch to my emotions. And sometimes I'll go, okay, no, let's move forward. What can I be grateful about? And where do I do this trait? And how can I get back online?
That's an interesting theory. Like when you're triggered, let yourself be triggered. Exercise it. Let it happen.
Yeah. Sometimes it's as simple as like, okay, I'm feeling this huge emotion. What am I feeling? Like where? Yeah, it's so deep, man. Life is such a trip. It's interesting. If anybody says I got to figure it out, I'm full of shit.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting trip.
There's a book called The Chimp Paradox, and it's written by a sports psychologist, and he basically says that every person's brain has the chimp, the human, which is the smallest one, and the computer. So the computer is always running in the background. It's analyzing. It's what keeps you safe. It's the amygdala. It's the computer. And the human is your conscious thought, your higher self, you when you're being very present and very loving and very forgiving and woke, you know. The chimp is when you're triggered, and he basically says the problem is the chimp's much bigger than the human. So when the human's there, the human can't override the chimp. So sometimes you just need to let the chimp exercise and tire itself out. And learn when it's getting triggered again, and then you can stay longer in that human space. So a very simplified way of how the brain works, but I liked it when I was studying sports coaching. That's a good one.
Totally. The triune brain, Don McLean. That's like lizard, the mammalian, and then the human. It's very, very similar, and it's usually you said it. Let it feel it and let it move. It's got to tire itself out. Best way is like if I'm really triggered or something like that, go for a run, go move and breathe. And absolutely. I think we're designed for that in a fight or flight situation. That anytime you would have had fight or flight, you would have either fought or fled. And both of those have inherent in them tremendous movement that burns off the stress chemicals and gets you back to normal. Like deer, after they're being run down by a lion, if they get away, 10 minutes later, they're eating grass. They're over it. But we're still wound up with the chimpanzee going nuts, mainly because we're not moving.
Yeah, you know? We're still triggered about the guy that spilled coffee on us on the way to the office.
Yeah.
I'm still allowed to be mad about that, even though it happened 2 hours ago and I can't change anything about it. Yeah, we're all.
And the bitch of it is like you're doing that and you still got that vibration going. You're focusing on that, and it just keeps bringing more and more shit until you go, oh god, okay. Change the channel, dude. Tune into something else.
Yeah. I think even the fact that you're aware of it, even if you're just watching this and you haven't exercised any of this yet, and you're just aware next time of when you're getting triggered, even just that awareness probably puts you ahead of 70% of the population, maybe more.
It's huge. I'd like to say I have that skill mastered. I certainly do not. I'm improving at it. I want to continue to improve at it. But catching yourself as well, like, okay, am I going to respond to the situation or am I reacting? And when you're in that triggered state, then you're just reacting, you're running a program and you just say and do things that are not really you, they're a program. So yeah, awareness is key, pivotal.
That's why it was a little bit of a tangent, but that's why I'm, less of a tangent than talking about the Dyson, but that's why I really love talking about psychology with people, because people that have actually studied psychology on a deep level, it's good because they can spot what other people are doing and their cognitive biases, but also because you're aware of the cognitive biases, you're more aware when you do it and your blind spot. Now, a blind spot, like by definition, they're not going to see their blind spot, but at least they're going to be aware, okay, this is me getting triggered. This is fear of loss aversion. This is the manifestation. I'm getting triggered because I have familial problems and now I'm seeing it manifest somewhere else in my life, and that's why I'm getting so annoyed. But even just being aware of these psychological processes puts you ahead.
Completely. 100% agree.
And the last little note that I made here, it's again, it's one of the little nuggets that I get from the book, is how you talk to yourself. Now, I'm guilty of this. It says, guard your speech. Never speak of yourself, your affairs, or of anything else in a discouraged or discouraging way. So I'll do this a lot with academics. I don't know if I'm going to pass that exam. or I'll do it with Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I struggle with my Spanish, but even just saying that, you're affirming it. And that's why I wanted to ask you. So would you reframe that as, I'm still in the process of learning Spanish? Or another one is they'll say, oh, I don't have money for that. I'm poor. Whereas if you say, instead of saying I'm poor, say I'm in the process of becoming rich.
Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Yeah, that's not mine. That's DeMartini. But yeah, focusing on the process. I'm in process. Like there's nowhere to get. It's not like this thing that's going to happen that all of a sudden you're going to, I've got all the money I want and all the love that I want and all the health and happiness and boom, done. Nailed it.
Yeah.
It's always in the process. As soon as I get fluent in Spanish, like, damn it, I'm living in the Netherlands and I got to learn Dutch. It never stops. And I think that's one thing. It might be a very masculine trait, or we're taught in sports, where you got to just like fight through and get to, the next goalpost or the next line or the next achievement or the next thing. But it doesn't ever end. But we love that, even the petite mort, the little death. It's like, it's all about driving through death for the masculine, but it does not end ever. And it took me a long time to realize that, like, you're not ever going to get to a point where you feel like you've got it figured out, if that makes sense. So enjoy the process. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, that's pretty much that's what the only note that I've made from the summary. Whenever I was reading the summary, I kind of went through it and I was like, there's nothing here really to highlight or to talk about, because we've already talked about all the points that are there.
It's the highlight of the entire book. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like there's no point beating a dead horse with that.
No, I agree. I mean, get clear. Your thoughts are things. You're a creator. You stay in contact with it by being grateful, and then you got to keep the vision and act in a certain way, being present in your actions, maintaining focus on what you want, and you will bring it towards you. And I think the biggest thing out of that is that it's a science, and science works by predictability and by breaking things down to their constituent elements. And you can see very much this plus this equals this. And the science of it is doing all of it. And if you can do that, you will see it's reproducible, and it is a science.
Yeah. In all aspects of your life, whether it's making money or learning a new skill or the relationships that you have, it's transferable for everything.
Totally.
Any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to wrap up with?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm just really grateful for this opportunity. I don't know if we've got anybody else on the journey with us anymore, but just sitting down and holding ourselves accountable to reading this and going through it chapter by chapter and discussing it. This has been definitely, as many times as I've read this has been the most powerful read for me. And I got so much out of it that I missed before. Even though I've read the damn thing so many times, there's just so much wisdom in it. And I'm just really, really grateful for going through this. I'm really excited about what's coming up next.
Do you go back to practice this week? Are you back to work?
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
Tuesday.
Okay. I go back tomorrow. I got the text. So I'm getting ready to go in and adjust people tomorrow in a big hazmat suit and a mask and gloves on. And I thought it's a really fitting way to finish it, because the day that I finish the book and do the review and close that, the next day I go back to clinic. I thought that was really funny. I thought that was cool.
That's awesome. And so what do you like? I can imagine you holding your practice and having a clear vision on what you want to create. But for school, have you got a very clear vision for what you want to set out for the rest of your academic career or clinical?
No, as we speak at the time of recording, this is the 10th of May, 2020. I need 30 more adjustments to finish fourth year, which I could have done in 3 weeks had this not happened, but it happened. Whenever I go back, I'll follow some advice that Vismai gave me the other day, because I've been more focused on high volume. I'm high volume. Get as many patients as you can. Doesn't matter. Every man, woman, and child, get them in. I'm going to adjust them. Whereas Vismai is like, okay, take this time now in school. Your numbers are fine. Don't worry about the numbers. You don't need to make money. Everything's fine. Dive deep now with the patients that you do have, and figure out what archetype you like. Who do you like to help? Who do you like to spend time with? And then ask them who are the people that are attracted to me, and who are the people that are looking for me. He's like, go out for a drink with your patients, go to the cinema with your patients, whatever you need to do, and find out who those people are. So that's my plan whenever I go back, is spend a bit more time with them and just slow down a little bit and not worry so much about the numbers.
Right. That's awesome. Great plan. Get it clear.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I'll wrap up with this. This is the only bit from the summary that I highlighted. The men and women who practice the foregoing instructions will certainly get rich, and the riches they receive will be in exact proportion to the definiteness of their vision, the fixity of their purpose, the steadiness of their faith, and the depth of their gratitude. And for me, that's
literally the only thing I highlighted in that chapter. That exact one.
That's perfect.
Beautiful.
Patrick, I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to do this and go through it. I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. But if you enjoyed it even half as much as I enjoyed it, then it was a great endeavor. So yeah, thank you for taking the time. And I'm going to upload this online. And yeah, I'm sure people in the future are going to be very thankful for you taking the time to share this wisdom with us as well.
Yeah, I hope so. I really am grateful. I appreciate you very much, Zarek, for putting this together. I've never taught this material before. It's not my material, but going through it has just been, it's really great to revisit it over and over, but in this kind of in-depth study way. It's held me accountable to it, and I've gotten just a tremendous amount of value. So thank you very much.
Yeah, during this lockdown, it's been like an after-school special. This keeps me out of problems. It keeps me away from the drugs and the gangs and the violence. And
exactly,
I just do my study and go speak to Patrick. So
it keeps you off the streets. I love it.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you again so much, Patrick, for taking the time. And yep, this was the Science of Getting Rich.
Awesome.